Hello, everybody, and welcome to round four of the Sim Racing Online LMU 2026 P2 and GT3 Championship. We are at Le Mans today, a very special event. This is a 2-hour time excel event starting at the afternoon hours and going up into the evening, and again bringing us back through the morning. And there is weather today, Woody. We've got some weather. I'm Rob Milliken here with Woody, our analyzer, and Neil Wood. This is the Woody and Crow Show, and here we are at Le Mans. Let's talk about it a little bit, Woody. What do you got?
Well, welcome, everybody, to France, Le Mans, the flagship event for Le Mans Ultimate and the WEC. This track has been around since 1923, if you can believe it. 1923. It has hosted WEC for quite a number of years, and it's also hosted the World Sports Cars. And I think, if you've probably spotted, there is a Le Mans Classic event that takes place every year, which is the old cars, the old bangers, so to speak, going around this track. But we have 13 kilometers of track, of permanent roads, and of racetrack. It is a mixture between the two, so 13 kilometers. There are 38 corners. I had to take a double take when I saw that on the information. 38 corners. So even though there are exceedingly long straights, one of the longest straights in motorsport apparently, but we have a number of chicanes. So we are using the modern layout. This is the 2023-2024. It has been the same since about 2015. So we're set for some interesting racing with a little bit of weather, Rob.
Yes, talking about the weather. So we are going to see into the night. It should be pretty good, but the clouds are supposed to be moving in as morning approaches. So it shouldn't be too much rain, but they do say 100% chance of rain, just regular rain. So we shall see how that goes out. Let's talk about these cars a little bit. We've got...
So we are running the P2, which is the unrestricted version, which is used in ELMS, the European Le Mans Series. And it has about 600 brake horsepower compared to the normal P2 that's used in WEC, which is a bit of a down-rated version. So it's plenty quick. So the difference in speed between the GT3s and the P2s is going to be quite significant. It's normally about 20 seconds or so in lap time, but probably a little more at Le Mans, as we're seeing lap times of 3:34 for the LMP2s and about 4 minutes for the GT3s. As far as the GT3s are concerned, these are the LM GT3s. They're not like the standard the standard GT3s. But we do have a mixture of makes involved with us tonight. We are seeing a few people taking the Aston Martin. We've got a couple of Lamborghinis. There is a Corvette in the field, which I'm... or is that... No, that's an Aston Martin. I'm sorry. We've got some BMWs, and McLaren seems to be a good choice. But the McLaren, since last round, Rob, has been nerfed. So it may not be one of the quickest in a straight line.
Interesting. So was this a nerf from the last patch?
Indeed. The last patch that brought along some of the improvements to the sim, particularly to do with hypercars, which we're not using tonight. So the BOP, the balance of performance that they use in WEC, does get customized every so often to, level out the field a little to make it so it's not a one-make series. But we have had quite a mix in this series specifically. The Lamborghini last time out at Monza was pretty fast at the Temple of Speed. But with the McLaren was a little bit OP, perhaps at Monza. We did see mainly the front of the field was dominated by McLarens. But maybe it might be a bit changed for Le Mans. These long straights, we're going to see a train of cars, whether or not people work together or not. But they have got 2 hours of racing, so we'll see whether they work together or whether they fight.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. 2 hours. So what about fuel and tires? Are they going to make it? I mean, if we get the rain, obviously might have to stop. Depends on the severity of the rain, of course. But yeah, it's very curious how this is going to turn out.
So I believe that in strategy terms, we were talking about this a little bit before. I believe the GT3s will have to stop twice. And if there's some rain near the end, they're going to have to factor that into their strategy. So they may end up doing 2 stops and maybe having their second stint where they can kind of play with it a little so that they can pit when they need to. So it is a little bit random when the rain will come and how severe it will be. Because this circuit is so long, the circuit may not stay dry because there's not enough cars on circuit to keep that dry line dry. So we'll have to see what happens with the pit stops there. The LMPs possibly have to stop a little bit shorter, but again, we'll have to play that by ear. There will be a busy pit lane at some point in time near the end of the race for those 2 segments of rain, but we'll also have to see what the light is going to be like. It's always difficult when the sun is coming up or going down. The sun does get a bit low, gets in the driver's eyes, but strategy is going to be key of when is the right time to pit, because it's a 4-minute lap. You've got a hell of a time to decide, but it's the right decision. You don't want to spend 4 minutes going around on the wrong tire.
Right. Yeah, so we see. So for quali in this race, due to the length of the lap, the qualification has been extended to 20 minutes instead of the regular 15. That should give everybody at least a chance to get 3 laps in, you would hope. We'll see a time lap, at least 2 time laps, perhaps. But we shall see. As we are narrowing down to that, we got about 3.5 minutes left of practice. You can see by the tower up there, it's a mixed view of all the drivers that are in so far. Get rid of that. We're working on this LMU broadcast app. What other cool stuff do they have here? Onboard driver box is going to show us pretty much the same as what's down below there. Just playing around with the views here.
So just be aware that obviously, you can see in the tower that we got a mixture of times from all the manufacturers. We are using the Orica 07 for the P2, so you can see that. If the icon is missing, it means that people are using a custom paint job. So we'll take a special look at those going around. We've got a couple of people that have got custom paint jobs this season.
As you can see, that's a temp car there. I think that's Lauren Martin in that temp car. No. Anyway, that's what happens when the players come in after we've joined as broadcasters. Until the session changes, they'll be in a temp car if they're following Simon Bacon around. One thing we haven't touched on, Woody, is we haven't really talked about the scores too much today. Let's bring that up. I think I have let me get a shot here of the. I'm trying to get to pit road. There's so many turns. I think we're on turn 27 of 38. There we have an area view. Anyway, as far as it goes, who is leading, who is not? Let's get a look at some of these. Let's see. I think there are your GT3 points after 3 rounds. This is the top 10 led by Lewis Middleton, Lars Hagman, and Grant Jones. You see they're separated by a handful of points there. 101 to 100 is just, and 94 for the top 3. 91 in 4th place with Dino Piara. And then Michael Rizzo, who was dominating. He's back today, is he not? Is he here?
He's signed in, but that was costly, him not being there for round 3. But it is an 8-round championship, so he's got plenty of time to catch up. But
yeah,
the points are very, very close, particularly in GT3.
Yeah, he's like 20 points behind there. That's not bad. And then if we take a look at the P2s, Nick Westy leading the way with 118 points, with Philip Hischler 106 right behind him, and then 86 for Tanner Stilby. And all these have had all of 3 events for those top 3, so that's a pretty good separation in points. So we'll see what happens today with this fiasco of an event. So yeah, we'll be ready for that. All right, we are about there.
As expected, GT3 is most subscribed in this event, so we'll probably be focusing on them up to for mainly because P2s are a bit thin on the ground at the moment.
Yes. Let's see. Everybody's in the pit. Pichler's out, but he's in a temp car right now too. So here we go. Session is about to change, and we're about to go into a private quali, a 20-minute session. We'll bring that to you right now live. See who jumps out first here as the session changes. At least it's nice weather to start. Ollie's still out there. Lots of temp cars. So all these temp cars should go away on this session change here as the server is going to kick itself over.
So it will be private quali, as I remember last time. So there will be no extra drafting between drivers. So they've got to go out on their own.
Yes.
Which, is always a bit lonely at Le Mans, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's such a long lap. You got a lot of time to think about stuff, and then that's going to be. I'm telling you, that
was it too much time to think about stuff?
It might indeed be, as it looks like Bruno's made it in. We've got 18 drivers now, so we're getting close. These guys might roll in this last 20 minutes of quali here. They got plenty of time to jump on, but it looks like, yeah, the guys are on their outlaps now. Tasker, Middleton, and I want to welcome Lewis Middleton to our admin staff. Lewis Middleton, of course, related to Nigel Middleton, who was basically our founder. As we watch Lewis, he knows I'm talking about him, so he's driving off into the dirt there. Anyway, he is our latest and greatest admin. He's going to be running stuff for us here. He's going to really be helping out on the back end. So we're really excited to have Lewis joining the team. So, yeah, next is going to be you, Woody, so be ready for your promotion here. Should you choose to accept it. Oh, as we watch. Yeah. Nice little spin there. All right, what do we got here? Dayton Tasker, love this paint job. I love this car. This great looking BMW here. Let's see what it looks like from the inside.
People warming up the tyres along the straight, which I think is a good strat, but they don't want to do it too early, I feel.
You would think with a 4-minute lap that you really don't need to warm your tires up by the time you get ready to start a time lap. But yeah, these are the things that only goes on in the racer's mind.
I think there is a strategy that you can drag a little bit of brake, because they have introduced the mechanic where the brake temperature will feed out into the core of the tire, so you can drag a little bit of brake near the end of the lap and heat up those brakes and heat up the tires at the same time. So rather than weaving side to side, which I don't really think does an awful lot, it is kind of infamous that Kimi Räikkönen was one of those that thought it was absolutely pointless to weave side to side. But each to their own, I suppose. But maybe near the end of the lap that you want to raise the tire temperature, but not too much. But I'd imagine that it's pretty cold out there at the moment.
Right, and I did notice that when the rain comes, the track it drops down a couple of degrees Celsius. I think we're at a steady 22, and as the night comes in, I think it cools down to 21 to 20-ish. We'll see how that affects these drivers as well. We are focused now on Mr. Tasker, I believe this is. It's Pitchler. There's Phillip. Of course, they're all on their outlaps right now.
So Philip Pitchler just coming through. I believe that's Indianapolis. And what was the other corner? Arnage, that's the one.
Arnage,
we've got plenty of time to think of what the next corner is. But as I said in the build-up, I'm not even going to attempt some of these French names. But the Porsche curve just coming up. Just when I've tried going around these curves as fast as possible, you just have to hold your breath.
Exactly.
There's a little bit of runoff, but not on that corner there. You come so close to the barrier.
Right, and then this big right-hander sets you up for this little section here, which you can really get on it if you time it right.
Yeah, and then heading into the last chicane, you really got to have a think about how much curve you want to take, because track limits is in effect. And you can pretty much do the whole lap and then ruin it right in the last chicane by taking too much curve. But that last chicane is pretty tight.
All right, there he is on board. That's our first timed lap has begun with Mr. Pitchler. Lauren Martin, I think, is not too far behind him. And he's already off track. So now I don't know if the stewards are going to allow that or not. That was quite a cut there by Mr. Fischler. Let's see where Mr. Martin is. I believe he's right behind him here. There's his Lauren Martin.
Yeah, so just coming through those first couple of corners and then coming out onto what would be the Morsand Straight. So again, hold your breath and take that right-hander as fast as you can to carry all that speed onto the Morsand Straight. It's always a good view when you're viewing the real thing and you can see them come through that corner. And then the long, you take a deep breath, you have a sip of coffee, and then wait for the next chicane.
Of course, being the second one through, Lauren has gone purple in Sector 1, so he must be ahead of Fischler. Let's check on Fischler. Oh, you know what? I think it's just a broadcast glitch because they're all purple on their first lap. There's no comparisons yet, so never mind.
Yeah, it looks like Fischler has done a 34.4 and Lauren Martin's a 34.6. So,
right.
It's nip and tuck, as they say, but we'll see in the next 3 minutes when they come around and finish. But
Tanner has a 33.6 in that same section, Sector 1, so he's on pace to put himself up. Excuse me.
That particular fetching Dragon livery, that seems to be a popular one.
Yeah, it's a good-looking car. Wow, that speed down to this tight hairpin.
Yeah, so Fischler lost a lot of time in that second sector. The second sector was 90 seconds, whereas Tanner put in an 83.4. So it looks like Tanner is heading for provisional pole at the moment.
Yeah, he's well ahead of the other guys. There's a 94 and an 85 for Martin. Oh, never mind, the 94 is GT3. Well, let's check on these GT3s. There's Tasker. $37.7
fetching Golf livery there.
Yeah, pretty nice looking. Andrew, I would say. And then Bjorn, let's check on Bjorn. Now remember, we lost Bjorn about 5 laps into last race. But there he is in the Lambo, so let's hope he doesn't have, I think he had connection issues, or he had something going on. I can't remember what it was.
Also, something to mention is that obviously we have some teammates in this race, and obviously this race being, finding your drafting partner and being able to work together, that we may have some team tactics going on. So people working together to, stay together to make it up the field. So we'll have to see if that works out in the race, whether they qualify close to each other or perhaps they drop back and work together. We'll have to see, because it can be a pretty lonely race if you have no partner to dance with.
Well, there's our first lap for the P2s at 33.4. Tanner Selby putting it up on top. We knew he had that faster sector time, so he probably no-brainer that he was going to start us off up on pole. We'll see what happens here. Where is Mr. Tasker and Rizzo?
That's a 4-minute 0.6.
We're missing Rizzo, who was dominating the GT3s for the first 2 events, and now is going to miss 2 events unless he shows up really quick. Let me split this tower so we can kind of see the top 5 of each class here, where they're at. There's Tasker was at 4.00 with a 6. Very good. And Smith right there, just 2/10 behind him. Oh, there is Hugh Smith in that Red Bull Mustang livery. Really beautiful car.
So we got Aston Martin out on top. Hugh Smith is in the Mustang, as you said, and then we've got a Lambo in third. So a good spread of manufacturers so far in the top three. It's Bjorn Hagman, I think, is a little way adrift at 2.6 seconds in fourth. So
Yeah,
catching up to do.
So Lars here, I think he's got a 4.6 right, and here is Bjorn in the yellow. So there you have the Lambo Bros, and 4006 is the target time. So that is what Neil Tasker has put up there, and that's what these guys are shooting for. And then Dino Piera. Well, he came in late. We do have 20 drivers now, so no sound, no skin. We'll get back to that when the session changes. Dino Piera, no skin. Bruno Neves is in no skin as well. He's in a P2. But Ollie Bateson, the helicopter pull in on him. There he is. So he's in the Ferrari. And then going down the rest of the GT3s, Grant Jones, temp car. Glad he made it in. And then there's Gilles De Silva in one of those nerfed McLarens. Field work here. Hello, how you doing? Wow, a little bit of understeer going into that. So what is the name of that little chicane there?
The first chicane, let's look up on my map.
Yeah.
It is. So they go through Tete Rouge onto the Mulsanne Straight. No, I'm not even going to try it.
Okay, I didn't think so.
It's something in French.
All right, and then we have Larry Thomas.
The first chicane.
Yeah, we'll call it that. All right, Mr. Thomas. He's also in that McLaren.
So a couple of the cars that I'm not seeing represented, particularly in the GT3s, no one has decided to muscle the Corvette around the track, and I believe we don't have any Ferraris with us.
Yeah, actually,
no one decided to take the Mercedes or the Porsche either. So
I don't see a Porsche, but I did see a Ferrari. Was it Jones? No. Oh, of course, one of these temp cars might be one. You're probably looking at the Ollie. Ollie's in the Ferrari. There he is, Bateson.
There we go.
So we do have a lone Ferrari, unless one of those temp cars is also the Ferrari, which we'll find out here.
I mean, personally, I think this is maybe me, but I think the Ferrari looks a lot like the McLaren.
I agree.
It's got a very similar shape to it. It's just the way that the front grille and the rear looks, but the whole shape of the car looks like a McLaren to me. So it's easy to get mixed up. That's the excuse I'm going for, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm using your excuse as well because it's happened to me already in every broadcast. So there you have it. Let's see, 5th place, Andrew Harper. He's getting into the pit, so he's coming in. Westy, I'm expecting Westy to put something good in here. Let's see, you know how he's a wild man on the throttle. I'm assuming he doesn't like a lot of wing either. So
it will be the lower downforce package as well. The drivers will be using basically the Le Mans package, which does strip out the downforce, and then you just got to hold on through the chicanes. So it will feel drastically different, I would imagine, from the first 3 rounds.
Right, the Le Mans Aero package. Smaller wings, ride heights. Robin Taylor's the lone P2 yet to get himself up on the board there. On a time lap here. We got about 6.5 minutes left, so these guys can cross the line and go again for the most part. We'll check on him later. Meanwhile, Pichler currently in 2nd. He's getting close here. He's coming into Sector 3. one of the Hegmans, which is Lars, is the GT3 in second place. Tasker, Middleton, and Pierre for the GT3. Selby, Pichler, Neves, Martin, and Harper for the P2s. And that's yet for Taylor to put his lap in.
Yeah, so it looks like Hugh Smith is the first person to put it under the 4-minute mark with a 59.6, which is pretty good. So he's up on provisional pole, and he's decided to go to the pits because I don't think he thinks he can improve. But
right.
The rest of the field are still out on track, and they can possibly overtake. So it's a 0.7 gap at the top there, so that's quite a lot. But Lars Hagman, Neil Tasker, and Lewis Middleton, our winner last time out, is still able to overtake. And Lewis Middleton does look like he goes purple, but I can't trust that is a good sector. Like 37.6. It does sound fast in the Aston Martin, just part way around the lap at the moment.
Check Taylor out here with the online HUD. He's green and green in his L cells. Let's see if he can get ahead of his partner, Westy, their teammates, Westy and Taylor. I thought, here he comes. And what does he do? Puts himself right up in fifth. Nicely done, Mr. Taylor. Okay, 4 minutes left, so some of these guys got plenty of time to cross the line, but maybe not. This will be like a last lap for some of these guys once they cross.
Yeah, Westy just went to provisional pole in the P2.
I see that.
First lap time in the 31s, so 31.4, and has decided to park it. Didn't want to go for another lap. He decided that is enough. But so it's Westy, Selby, and Pichler in the P2s.
Good there. So, the track nice and clean and dry. Getting in some optimum laps here before this simulated 24-hour event. So 3 p.m. start. That means rather quickly we're going to watch a sunset. We're going to go into the night, I would assume, at 12 times time excel, that it's not going to take long for us to get into those twilight hours of light. Pichler's on an outlap. Ah, man, he'll make it across. He'll be able to start another one. So let's jump back here to these guys. There's Bacon. Another Mustang. You can just hear those things. And then where is Ericsson in one of the most obnoxious sounding cars? Yeah. Let's see if we can get right on that car.
Yeah, he's in the Lexus, which I think is the best sounding car in the GT3 pack, to be honest, along with the Mustang, but I'm a sucker for that V8.
Yeah. There's a certain exterior view where you can really hear it.
So it looks like Lewis Middleton has popped to the top of the timesheets.
Look
He
at
is
that.
The second person in the 359s.
There he is, that Austin. Now that's got a really nice reverberated exhaust sound as well, the Austin.
Yeah. So it's always been, it's either been screaming around Le Mans or it's got a nice throaty sound, but now in the current iteration it sounds quite deep and throaty rather than the I think it was the DBR9, I think, that used to scream around Le Mans. It used to, I think it was about in the early 2020s. It did used to sound like was it a V10 in the back, I think?
Right, I remember. Even in the old R Factor 2 days, it was just so loud. There's the one I'm looking for. So this view, he's off throttle now, but a little bit of that. And then let's compare to that to Ericsson's. There's the Lexus. Stuff there. All right, last minute. Let's see. Lars might have a shot to get across the line. I don't know, he's pretty far away. But these guys are all starting a fresh lap. So Pichler, he's on his last lap here, his last shot for pole. Let's follow him around here for a minute. See how... I think, you know, the weather kind of helped these guys a little bit by staying. Hopefully it won't be raining in the dark. We don't know. It's weather. You can kind of predict it, but...
I mean, yeah, but it might get a little bit difficult to judge the wetness of the road. I know people like plugins to kind of tell you about like percentages and things, but they gotta really go on feel when the best time is to change over between slicks and wet tires. And in low light conditions, you can't really see it. It's just kind of a dark tarmac, isn't it? So sometimes the tell is if the cars are giving off a little bit of spray. You've got to be a little bit vigilant of where the wet patches are and where the dry patches are.
Here comes Lars. He's going to cross the line. This will be his final lap. Final time. He's yellow and yellow, so you can see he's all over those chicanes. He does not improve. Tasker's right behind him. And he's also off in the sector, so not going to be much of an improvement there. Lewis coming at one more lap. Of course, he is yellow. I have him currently leading. GT3 is 8th overall. So that sector marker, I think, is a little bit off there. But he's also, that 359.4 is going to be tough to beat. Two drivers in the 50s. They're both 59s. Just off by 2 100ths, Hugh Smith and Middleton. Anybody else out there? So I think that's it. He's coming in. So the last driver out there is Pichler. And he went purple sector 1, green in sector 2. So he might have a shot here to better himself at least. Oh, until this.
Whoa.
Oh, and there goes Pichler. Good heavens to Betsy over. Are you with?
Yeah, he had a good first sector in the 34s, and he was on for a quite fast second. But that's a spectacular way to screw up your qualifying lap.
Teams and drivers go to the grid for a race start.
So it looks like the formation line starts around the Porsche curves, I believe. And there will be a little bit of space between the P2s and the GT3s when they get going. So, but the last corner is always tight to get cars side by side. So we'll have to see what happens. Looks like a very orderly start. No particular shenanigans that you normally see, but it's so far, yeah. We'll see what happens when they get to the first chicane.
Green flag, green flag.
Yeah, a very clean start for both classes. It did look like Pichler and Harper dropped a little bit back and got amongst the GT3 cars, but now they're spread out. And we've got GT3s challenging each other up to the second chicane. All clean. No one has any damage, which is good to see. 2 hours of racing to go. Position, got a bad start, and he's now trying to make up time. He's all over the back of Tasker in third in that Aston Martin, and they are side by side coming up the straight. He's pinned to the inside line. There's not really going to be grip up there, and it's very difficult to pass up to this slight right-hander and into this very slow second gear corner, and up along another straight, and we are clean. So it looks like the top 4 of the GT3s have broken away from the rest of the field. And it does look like... Oh, and one goes... That's the leader that's just gone around. I think that's Lewis Middleton. Oh! went round just after the Porsche curves, and unfortunately he's rejoined in 10th place. So a big mistake from Lewis Middleton. Do have Larry Thomas coming in the pits. I don't know whether this is perhaps a drive-through penalty from the start, but he's the first to come through pit lane. A bit early for a pit stop. In fact, there's two drivers coming in. I think that's Simon Bacon coming in just behind it, but he is actually pitting. He was the first driver that you said had a little bit of damage. So I think he's maybe suffering a bit from understeer, so he's decided to pit early. See Pereira and Grant Jones nose to tail in these first couple of rounds. They have the same paint job. I don't know if they're teammates, but they all seem to be working together. And they'll do well to work together because that top three is it's going away from the rest of the field. So he did go broadside along the track. So I'm wondering if he's flat spotted his tyres. They probably feel absolutely terrible in the straight line. Yeah, I saw a big puff of white smoke. It looked like he locked up coming into what was Arnage and just went straight on. So his tyres are probably not feeling very nice either, but he's got going again. So Andrew Harper is the first to pit with the P2s. He overshot his pit box just a tad, so that he had to be pulled back. But maybe this is a short first stint for Andrew Harper. It doesn't look like there's any damage on the car, so maybe a short fuel stint to start off with. guess at this point the drivers are making the most of the daylight that they've got. So it possibly becomes a bit more hairy once it heads to nighttime. That's when the drivers are going to be settling down and possibly saving some fuel. But as in endurance, it's all about fuel saving. As Pichler goes to the outside, but I don't think you can get around. Harper is back out on track. That was a lengthy stop, so I don't know if he had damage. He was in the pits for quite a number of... he's now 176 seconds behind the leader, so he's got some catching up to do, but I don't know if that was scheduled or just to get him out of traffic, or perhaps another reason. We'll have to find out after the race. Just to check, Rob, we're having notifications that you may be muted on the stream, so I've been talking to myself for the past half an hour. Doesn't look like he's hanging back to save any fuel. They want to get ahead of each other. Stable in the GT3s at the moment. It looks like Lars Hagman has now been out front after that accident from Lewis Middleton gave him the lead. Hugh Smith is about 1.1 seconds back, so he's a little bit out of the draft, and they're in the 4:02s. So we've still got Dino Pereira and Grant Jones nearly nose to tail, so them working together is keeping them in touch, but there's still a little bit adrift. We'll have to see what happens when the sun goes down. But about 41 degrees on the track at the moment, but that's soon to cool down when the light disappears and the rain appears. But we'll have to see when that actually happens. There's no guaranteed time of when it is going to fall. So as soon as we see the raindrops on the windscreens and the windscreen wipers start going, and we see these cars slipping around a little bit, see them struggling, and it depends when the rain comes and when where the cars are out on track as well. So it's around the Porsche curves, I think. I think he must have just got it on the curb or got it out of shape. He was pointing completely the wrong direction. And that is one of the fastest places on the circuit as well to do it. So his tyres are probably looking like 50p pieces, as it were. Currently the pace set in the 4:02s, so about 3 seconds slower than the qualifying pace. But we're seeing lap times jump up and down a little from the cars behind, so consistency is going to be key. Just settle in. You've got 1 hour and 44 minutes to go of racing or just pacing yourself. We know it's very difficult, and I know from first hand when you're out on your own and you've got nothing to chase, it's very difficult to keep your concentration, keep your eye in. With the light changing as well, all of your braking markers are going to be changing lap after lap. So that's another thing to be wary of. We're going to see when the light goes down whether there are some nighttime specialists as well, because that adds another element to this race that's going to make it special. Yeah, I think we're getting I was going to say fake yellows. I think if the car dips to one of the outside lanes, it shows a yellow for us on our track map. So it's a positive negative, or a negative positive. I don't know which way round. But he's definitely on track and seems unscathed. No tape. It's probably a good strategy, slingshotting up these straights to push yourself forward a little. So maybe that's what they're trying. I know bump drafting is not really that effective in these cars, but there's no blocking. It is looking like they're working together. Yeah, they're not too far away in pace either. The 402s, 403s, so it's on the leader's pace. So they've got to keep up this tactic if they're going to keep up. I'm guessing Lewis is probably thanking his stars that he didn't actually hit anything solid. It was just maybe tyre damage that he's got for the rest of this stint. And now I've seen a few guys being able to triple stint the GT3 tyres. So it just depends on how bad they are on their tyre wear. And adding in this wet section, are we going to see some drivers trying to stay out on slicks? Will the track stay dry enough? So we have had a second DNF in the P2s. Just like Andrew Harper has had some trouble. He's had to park it, so he's had second DNF, which makes it a bit of a lonely with 5 P2s left, but still a long, long way to go. So the sun is going down. It's soon going to be dropping behind those trees, and the light will change quite significantly. It is quite a late. It gets dark quite late at Le Mans in July, which is when this season is actually set. So we'll possibly be have light until about 9-10 o'clock at night in game time. But the top 2 are edging close together. They're now within a second in the GT3. So Hugh Smith now has some company. So currently the class in the P2 field with a 3:33.5 at best lap time. So just has to base himself for this earlier stint. So we'll see when the first pit stops are for the P2s. We're not expecting them in for another maybe 20 minutes or so, but we'll see. The cars do get a little bit dirty over, and I mean in 2 hours they're going to be depending on depending if they're bumping over the gravel or particularly doing any kind of incident. The bumpers are going to be quite dirty near the end, but the windscreen does get spots of dirt on, and it's not necessarily all clean at the pit stop. So it's something you just has to deal with going through this. Longer than normal race, but I love the lighting change when the sunset hits. But Hugh Smith is staying under the rear end of Lars Hagman, and I wonder if this is strategic. I'll have to look at the throttle traces to see if he's actually lifting off on the straights, because he could be saving a little bit of fuel. Maybe goes a little bit short, so he's got less fuel to put in at the pit stop, and maybe he can undercut Lars when he comes in for his. And of course, these cars do have notifications in the cockpit about fuel saving, so you can give yourself a little bit of a target. And in some of the cars, it will have some lights that show on the dash, so it tells the driver when to actually lift to actually meet that fuel target. So I think it would be reasonable to say that each stint, maybe a driver can at most save about a couple of laps. Lifting off maybe 100 meters before they would be braking can save a significant amount of fuel. But Hugh Smith didn't look like he was saving an awful lot. He looked like he was just barely keeping up with Lars, and has now dropped a bit back because he got a little bit sideways at the second chicane. It's staying in someone's draft and going a little bit faster, but not using as much fuel is definitely a good tactic. I mean, sure you can imagine that if these guys had, it's a 62 car field normally if they had the 3 classes. So you'd imagine how busy it is. We've only got 2 classes on track here. So normally in Le Mans it would be a hyperclass, an LMP2 and a GT3 classes, but quite sparse. So these guys do have a little bit of space to move around. It does get a little bit busy with 3 classes on track. Yeah, we didn't see much of Lewis last time out. He pretty much was lights to flag at Monza. A pretty surprising victory, which seemed to come out of nowhere because he was only 3rd and I think that's a 5th in the second round. So he dominated Monza. So having a bit of a tough time with Le Mans, which I think maybe requires a different type of skill set. So one thing about these GT3s as well, they do have traction control and ABS, so that is helping the drivers up to a certain point. So they're going to have to be leaning on the traction control, perhaps when it gets a little bit damp in that crossover point between wet and dry as well. So that's going to help them. The GTE class that they used to run a couple of years ago has none of that. So they're thankfully got a little bit of a helping hand in that respect, but the light is now going behind the trees, and the lights are ablaze for these drivers. Yeah, keep an eye on the sky. So as we saw in the build-up, the championship for the P2s is a little bit less subscribed than the GT3s. Nick Westy does have a little bit of a healthy lead, and he can afford to maybe back off a little, but we've said that before about Nick Westy. It is either full throttle or not, but he is out front by about 3.7 seconds. Tanner Selby is about a second or so best lap time away. So, but we have to see what happens when it gets down to a lower light. Cars and negotiating traffic can be particularly difficult in the dark. You have to rely on the tiny little bits of light that you do see from the rear lights. So the lap times are going to drop. We are in the 3:34s for the P2s and the 4:02s for GT3s at this point in time, but the lap times are set to drop, and the track temperature has dropped quite significantly. It was about 44 degrees, it's now 23, so those cooler temperatures are probably helping a little with cooling those tyres, but you don't want to get them too cold, otherwise they become very, very slippy. Seeing a couple of tactics from the P2s, some flashy lights. I don't always like that tactic myself, because it's you kind of saying to the driver in front, "Don't you know I'm coming?" But it helps in these darkened conditions that there is someone behind you, but it can be a little bit distracting. But it is dark clouds out the back, Rob, I can see from the start-finish straight. See, one advantage that we do have in sim racing in general, we don't have to rely on, if you've seen the real footage from Le Mans, when it gets to night time, the footage is pretty much just headlights. And it's not like that in sim racing. At least you can see the cars. It's not just you're not blinded. Because it doesn't model like camera lenses, physically accurate. So at least we can see the cars and see the action. Otherwise, you would just see a wash of white on the screen. So I'm thankful for that at least. Oh, it's Tanner Selby's just gone round. To say, I think he was pushing on to maybe the temperatures have got a little bit too low to push on those tyres now. But that was a bit of a pain, considering he made up all that time and he's now going to do it all again. All the way down to last place for the amount of entries we've got. So it'd be 40 points for first. Remember that the drivers do get a point for pole position and for fastest lap. So Nick Westy has already got a bonus point for pole position, along with I believe it was Lewis Middleton that got that bonus point for pole position. So they all come into play, and we've got a total of 8 rounds for this championship. So it's a long series, and those bonus points may, with the closeness of the championship that we got, with 1 point between first and second, particularly in the GT3s, it's going to it may decide the championship. And I believe that the drivers have been given a choice of what sim they want the next series to be in. They're given like a poll every time for what the next World Series is going to be. And I think they've picked Le Mans Ultimate for the second one as well. He's been there or thereabouts. He's not really lost sight of Lars out in front. So he was able to keep pace with him. I mean, Hugh Smith is the fastest car, or has been the fastest car, putting the fastest lap time in the GT3s. But he's keeping him within reach, but he's not quite close enough for draft. And maybe he's just close enough to have something to chase. But now the light has completely disappeared. It's now nearly dark, so I'm not seeing the lap times drop a significant amount. But, it does get dark at quite a number of places on this track. It's not exceedingly well lit, but you don't really want to be right up the rear end of one of the other cars, particularly when it's this dark, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, Tanner Selby has pretty much been improving on his results every single time he comes out. So we started off with 20 points in the first round, which I believe is maybe about 7th or 8th. He then moves to about 4th. Is that 4th? I'm doing my numbers right. 30 points for 4th place. And then he got a 2nd last time out in Monza, so that win is not far away. He's got some pace, but those little mistakes are going to cost him, especially around a long lap like Le Mans. So you can see the blue lights within the cockpits now. Now that the light has completely disappeared, the cockpits are lit by a low blue light, just so that your eyes can adjust a little. But just be aware as well, as far as tactics go, the GT3s have to rely on virtual energy. I don't understand virtual energy myself. It's a little bit of a dark art as far as I'm concerned. I just prefer filling up the fuel tank and just using it. But VE, as it's known, or virtual energy, is a way to balance the cars out a little. There is a virtual energy ratio which you can fiddle around with, but they do get prediction numbers in the cockpit through the UI, so they are able to tell how much they're using and how much they have to save, perhaps. But obviously, the less you use, the less you have to fill up. So shorter pit stops, but you just have to keep pace. If you can go fast and save a bit of fuel, then it works out in your favour. Oh, 2 pit stops we got. There is a Mustang just ahead of them. I think that is Hugh Smith just coming to the pits. Unfortunately, they are nose to tail in the pit stop, which means that one is going to have to get pushed around. Very tight. So, luckily, the cars are turned once the pit stop has finished, but one of those McLarens did have to come in at an angle and had to get moved out by their pit crew. And it all takes time, but Hugh Smith is on his way out. Yeah, it does look like the fuel economy of Lars out front. It's 2 Lamborghinis that have stayed out, Lars Hagman and Bjorn Hagman, so he's been able to save a little bit of fuel perhaps. So he's been able to push it an extra lap. I wonder if he's coming in the next lap. But that was basically third down to 9th. You would hope. You would hope. So De Silva as our next one in the pits from 11th place. He joins Ollie Bates in the pit lane. Ollie Bates is down and away he goes. So our leader of P2s is in the pits as well. Nick Westy is the first to pit from the P2s. Tanner Selby right behind him. So Pichler and Tanner Selby basically came in nose to tail. So it depends what they're doing with tyres. I don't believe they will be changing tyres in this first stint because they've only done 45 minutes. They can double stint these tyres. They do only actually have the option of mediums, I believe. So Nick Westy is down and away. So I wonder if Tanner Selby maybe had a little bit of damage. We saw him spin. I don't know if he actually had another spin, or perhaps a little bit of an off. So perhaps he had a little bit of damage to fix. So that they do only have one compound available for the P2s, which is the medium compound. So these guys have got to tiptoe round. Now this is unfortunate. I'm seeing on my UI, this is unfortunate for the guys that have just pitted because the rain is actually falling. It is only drizzle at the moment. But if it had come a lap later, then these guys would be in the box seat. Now Lance Hagman is coming in the pits. I wonder if he's going to maybe decide to pit for wets at this point. He's on his way out. I can see his wipers on. But I would expect the sidewalls to be different if they had pitted for wet tyres. So I'm wondering if they're thinking this is a short shower, or perhaps the only drizzle, and they'll be able to pit later on. But yeah, the swap in the lead. It does look like Pereira and Grant Jones were separated in that pit stop. They came in together, but they seem to have been separated on the road. They were nose to tail when they came in, but they are now 7 to 8 seconds apart. So I don't know what happened to Grant Jones. So Jones is now, he's got a drafting partner, but it's not his teammate this time. So Dayton Tasker, if he can stay with Grant Jones, then he's got a drafting partner to go through the night. But it looks like McLaren is still pretty strong against the BMW. So maybe the BMW is suffering along these long straights because it was able to pull out along the Mulsanne there, along the second straight. So disc brakes are glowing now that it's hit night time. Yeah, it probably looks worse on the windscreen than it probably feels on the track. The track temperature is significantly dropping from the figures I've got on my screen. It's now down to about 17 degrees. So these guys have got to be careful that those tires don't drop out the temperature window, otherwise they're going to become very, very slippy. But 5% is not really enough to become any kind of It's not going to become slippy by any means, but we're not seeing any spray being kicked up either, so probably looks worse than it is, Rob. And I mean, it can play mind games on you as well. If you've got rain on the windscreen, you instantly want to slow down because you think it's more wet than it is. You've got to go by feel. for when it's kind of like, you know, between wet and dry. It does prove, you know, the I was going to say the proper drivers, not proper drivers, but it shows the drivers that go by feel and not by vision. But especially through the night, it's very hard to see the track condition. So you have to really go by how the car is feeling in your hands. I think this part of the race is just going to be survival, Rob. It's they do say in the MON the night you have to just survive through it and wait until the day, and then you can push. You've got to be a bit maybe softer on the throttle, maybe softer on the steering to just get through this night phase. Particularly now it's a little bit wet, so it's about to get a little bit treacherous, I believe. Oh, I'm seeing Lewis Middleton. He's on 3 wheels going through onto the Mulsanne straight, so I don't know if he's hit the wall through the first couple of corners. I did see him slightly slower, but he's missing a wheel, and he's got an entire lap to go round to the pits. So, but this might be an opportunity to change onto wet tyres, but he's got to do a full lap on 3 tyres. We're seeing Bateson come into the pit, so is this their first pit for wet tyres? I think that is Pichler as well. Has he decided to pit early for wets? So Tanner Selby has popped into the pits as well, so Pichler and Selby were quite spread out after their first pit stops, but they are both coming into the pits. I think they're giving up those dries. We're going to see a flurry of pit activity now. So we see another, that's Gilles de Silva just popping up on the tracks. That is indeed, and it looks like a couple of people have been very lucky with where they were on the track. The leaders were kind of caught short here. They were part way round the track when the track is getting far too wet to be able to push on. So particularly second and third, no, in fact third and fourth in the GT3s are tiptoeing around this track now, so they're going to lose a lot of time. So Hugh Smith is down and away, and he's just in front of Lars Hagman, so they're going to be nose to tail as they come out of the pits, but both on wet tyres. So battle resumed for first and second in the GT3 class. Yeah, even Tasker is leapfrogged Grant Jones, so I wonder whether Grant Jones is perhaps fueling up. In fact, it's not. It's Pereira. So he's maybe going for a different fuel strategy, but he's got no drafting partner now. And I think Lewis Middleton is nearly around to change off his tyres. Yep, he's no as it goes around. I mean, this would have been absolutely inspired if he had had that accident in this corner and been able to pit straight away. He would have been on wet tyres. The first one to go on wet tyres, so he may have been able to make the most of it, but he's had to do a full lap. I don't know what kind of lap time he's done, maybe an 8-minute lap, but that must have been a hell. I don't. Is that? That's not his first pit stop, is it? I don't know. Why is Westy in the pits for this amount of time? Well, he's now about, when he comes out of the pits, he's going to be about 30 seconds behind the lead. So, and we've cycled through the wet pit stop. So I think Nick Westy has lost out here in this phase. So it must have been quite a hard hit in the first couple of, or just coming out of, I saw him kind of pointing the wrong way coming out of the first chicane. And so it must have been a hard hit to take the wheel off. But he's had to do an entire lap with that amount of damage. And he's taken a while in the pits as well. But yeah, Westy's only at the first, or the second chicane. He's got to go right the way around the track. He's got a long way to go. That car is crabbing all the way down the Mulsanne. So, Rob, we usually have the drama at the end of the race. This isn't usual for these kinds of races. So the night mixed with the wet weather has really screwed some of these drivers over. It's not the part of the race which I would expect the push to come. I would wait for the daylight, to be honest, but each to their own. So we do now, after all that pit stops, we got 4th, 5th, and 6th of the GT3s nose to tail. Task is going around. Don't knock off that rear wing. Oh, no. I saw him spinning back towards the barrier. It just needed to hold those brakes because that rear wing is very vulnerable. And I'm hoping that he knows he doesn't have a rear wing. He's going hella fast down this straight. He's going to know when he breaks into this chicane. When the sun comes out, it should help with making the track a little bit drier. I don't know if there's going to be a dry line by the end of the race, but this night section has been particularly treacherous. I've seen a couple of people like Lewis Middleton that crashed just before the wet section, but I'm seeing lots of the GT3s. They've got to turn up that TC. They've got to turn up that traction control and get the rear end under control because they're squirming all over the place. And Westy, I believe, has now got round to his box. He's now in the pits. though possibly the Tusker needs to maybe just jam it full of fuel, put that rear wing on, and see how far it can take him. I don't know if he can get to the end of the race. It's at 54 minutes. I think a stint is about, what did we say, 40 something seconds for the first stint. So that might be a little far. Yeah, that P2 looks a handful going through these slower corners. So you can see that some of the puddles collecting at the side of the track. But I imagine it's you've got to stay on that dry-ish line. I can't imagine it's very dry, but you've got to stay on that racing line. Heading off it is probably near suicide, so just got to keep it together and wait till morning when the Tanner Selby is, I think, trying to warm those fronts up. His tyres are probably very, very cold. So that Lambo's got the little purple light on the front, so you can definitely tell that it's a Lamborghini behind you compared to some of the other cars. So that's a neat little touch that the Lamborghini has got. But it's very low down as well. It's flatter than all the other GT3 cars, I think. But they're not really nose to tail, so spray is not going to become too much of an issue. But it's still very difficult to even detect the track conditions, but having someone to follow and maybe watching what they do is probably going to work into Lars's favour. Being out front and being the first one to hit the conditions as he nearly goes around coming out the last corner. A little bit of a mention for Bjorn Hagman as well. Through this pit stop phase and this wet weather, he's now got up to 5th place. He was down in the order in the dry section of this race, but all of those pit stops and those mistakes, and he's kept his nose clean, and he's now only 3.2 seconds behind Pereira in 4th. So he's going well after that disconnection at Monza. He's making up for it with a good result so far. Got a yellow flag in somewhere on the circuit. Right, you can definitely see now the sun has come up behind the trees. You can see the absolute state of the track and what they were dealing with through the nighttime section. It now looks more treacherous than it ever has. The sheen you can see off the track and the reflections. You can see what your death is, but with these conditions now in the light, they can definitely see where the racing line is and isn't. So that might help them a bit, but it's still headlights. And I think they will be on wets till the end, but it just depends whether in their final stint are they going to change tyres or not. Some drivers may stay out because it's going to save about, I'd say, about 20 seconds. It's going to be a short final stint for some of these guys. He seems to be catching at hand over fist. So I wonder if this is a difference in setup as well, because some people may have gone for a wetter setup and having to just deal with it through the dry. I wonder whether Tanner's gone for a low downforce setup, because he passed Pichler like he was standing still, and he's beginning to pull away. Yeah, I don't know what happened in that pit stop phase. Yeah, it is 30 seconds. So it may be one of those things that one of the cars had damage and one didn't. And if it was aero damage, they probably would have wanted to fix it. Otherwise, they probably would have been a little bit of a sitting duck. But pretty strange that they are separated by that amount. I don't think they would have split their fuel strategies that much, because they seem to be nose to tail and doing some quite good tactics of the first third of this race. So the only drivers that are in with drafting reach are first and second in the PT3s. Because the P2s have now stretched out their gap between Selby and Pichler to now 7 seconds. I mean, usually you get a lovely sunrise, but it's just been grey, so you didn't really know that the sun came up. So It's like a day the summertime in Britain. So with 44 minutes to go, it's probably too early to talk about championship connotations for this, but we did note in the first part of this race that our GT3, or our once GT3 leader, Michael Rizzo, has not turned up for this 4th round, and he did win the first 2 rounds, and these missed rounds are going to drop him down the order, which is going to hurt him for the later sections of this championship. He's now down to 5th in the championship, but Lars Hagman currently in 2nd place. These points are going to help him because Lewis Middleton has had an absolute nightmare this round. He was currently leading the championship, but he possibly will, well, not possibly, he will drop out of the championship lead for round 4. So there is an added thing to the wet weather as well, Rob, in terms of game mechanics. There is actually a wet weather line, so sticking on the racing line could possibly be a bit more slippier than trying what's called the karting line, so taking the non-rubbered line around some of these corners. It give you a little bit more grip. So drivers do have that at their disposal, but it does look like the entire track is soaked. No dry line at all on track. All that rubber that they put down in practice and qualifying is now distinctly gone. It looks like Leighton Parker is DNF'd. He must have had an accident. We didn't see that on screen. That was Dayton Parker that lost his rear wing, wasn't it? I mean, it's not the worst attrition that we've seen. I think round 1 was actually atrocious. But that wasn't even in the wet weather, so this is we're going to top it for attrition rating. Yeah, Hugh Smith. I'm looking at his points. That the Mustang has proved pretty significant. He got if I've done my points right, I think that's a 5th place in the first round, and he came 2nd at the 2nd round. He did drop down at 3rd round at Monza. Only got 18 points from that. So, but he is close between 5th and 6th. He's going to overtake 5th. Because Michael Rizzo is not here today, so he's going to go up in the championship no matter what today. But so yeah, chopping and changing. And we're only at the 4th round. We've got 4 rounds after this. I think you normally need to be within about 0.7 of the car in front, so have a little bit of advantage with draft. I wonder whether drivers are maybe hanging back a little, because obviously the closer you get, the more that spray is going to obscure your view. So you don't want to be too close. So as I said, this is an 8-round championship. After this round, we've got round 5, which will be at Bahrain. So that's another night race, but hopefully there won't be any wet weather in the desert this time. We have the 6th round. I could do maths. Is the 6th round will be at the Portimao circuit in the Algarve. And then we have our 2 bonus rounds, which should prove very interesting. So we've got round 7 at Sebring and the last round at Kota. So what a way to finish off this championship. That will be a hell of a round to finish off at Circuit of the Americas. Westy now a lap down on the P2 class, so after all of that, he had damage and had to make it all the way back to the pits. He's now a lap down, but still in 3rd place, so still good points. I was just looking at Gilles de Silva, looking at the steering rack to see if they... it looks like the steering might be bent a little, but that might just be having to make it round in these treacherous conditions. But it did look like a slight bend to the left. Doesn't look like the car is crabbing at all, so he's up to full speed on the Mulsanne straight, so... So now that steering is probably bent to more extent. Yeah, it does look like it's listing to the left-hand side, which is not good on a clockwise circuit. So these right-hand turns might be a little bit difficult as he makes his way through that chicane. No, I mean, I'm keen to see whether these GT3s have to pit again. It did look like that they were possibly, if they didn't have a full tank at the last pit stop, they may have not been able to complete the race on a 100% virtual energy. So, are they saving fuel in this final stint just to make it to the end of the race, or are they needing an extra pit stop? I don't think there's going to be any need to pit any tyres. But we'll just have to see if someone comes into the pits, which will shuffle up the order. But as come 32 minutes to go, we're not seeing any signs of that. Ah, I can see the clues. That seems like it's cheating a bit though. I can actually see behind the curtain a little bit. But it looks like everyone is quite stable on the amount of energy, but I don't know how much that percentage is going to get them to the end of the race. That is the thing. They've got 31 minutes to go. But how long is that going to... It's going to be just about 7.7 laps, according to the leader of the P2 class, but will that be able to get them to the end of the race? But the last thing you want when you're looking at that in-game is you don't want that number to go red. You don't want that virtual energy to drop, because as you said in practice, that there's a hefty penalty if you run out of virtual energy at the end of the race. It's what's it, 100 seconds, 120 seconds? And that can pretty much ruin all your effort. Yeah, so the virtual energy meter can be different, can't it, from the fuel figure that you've got. Yeah, and this is all adjustable in the car as well. They can obviously adjust how much they pit for. They can also adjust the ratio. I'm still not kind of sure about this rocket science of virtual energy, but there is a ratio number that people have been moving up and down. Is that our P2 second place just going around? I believe it is. Yeah, it just looked like he broke just a bit late for that last section. If I can look up on my track map, that is called Arnage. He braked too late for Arnage. But those are the easy ones. I'm seeing a couple of these P2s actually missing that final chicane. They've got to be careful with their track limits, because that can give them I believe either a time penalty or a drive-through, which would be an absolute disaster. I did see Silver come in. He may have pitted for repair. That car still looks a little unstable going in a straight line, so I wonder if it was for other reasons. Looks like the push is on. It goes a little bit wide as well. He misses out the second chicane. Braking a little bit late. And he's having to give up the time as well. He probably got that notification in the top that it went red and he had to yield the time that he gained. And have to wait for that meter to either go orange or yellow. I'm not sure how many track points that they're allowed in this race, but not an awful lot. 5. I think they get 0.25 per cut, maybe 0.5. Costly mistake though. Yeah, the game does, I think, it kind of pulls back the track limits a little when the race is declared a wet race, so it does automatically adjust it, which is a good feature. But they've still got to be careful of running off and missing out chicanes, because that is, according to the game, that's cutting a corner. So. I'm not seeing any clue that there's going to be a dry line on the track. It does look absolutely soaked out there, so this looks like maybe the condition to the end, but again, can they get this virtual energy tank, or fuel tank as it were, all the way to the end? Grant Jones is pushing on, so that's going to use a little bit more fuel, and they do look comparatively equal on virtual energy, so if one's going to pit, I think a lot of them will. Yeah, so looking behind the curtain, it looks like Lars Hagman, Hugh Smith and Jones are on very, very similar virtual energy and Pereira in 4th has got slightly more. So if the top 3 are not going to get there, then maybe Pereira will. It is very close indeed. It's a matter of like 2 or 3% in it. So maybe some people have overestimated, or the last thing you want to do is underestimate. That is a horrible feeling when you know that you've not put in enough fuel and you got to spend the rest of the race lifting and coasting. It's not the way I love to go racing, but it is a tactic. So just coming into the braking zone, just lifting off the throttle, maybe 100 or so meters just before the corner can save a little bit of fuel. Leaves you less to put in for the end of the race, but that's Nick Westy going around again. He's having an absolute nightmare. Span just coming out the first chicane, but he's got going again. And because obviously now we've headed into wet weather, it's unlikely that fast lap time is going to be beaten. So that pushing in the early portion of the dry weather, he's going to get his pole position points and the fastest lap points. So that would be, oh, that's a good drift, but not quite the way you get around the first chicane. So just a 20-minute sprint to the end. So during the night phase, I don't think, I mean, we did see the drivers pushing a little bit, squirming all over the place, but it might have just been the wet weather. See if maybe some of the drivers have pushed their tyres a little far. Hugh Smith's coming out the final chicane nearly sideways, so it's still slippy out there. The rain has now subsided a little back to a drizzle, but the track is still the majority of it is wet. There's no not even an inkling that it's going to dry up. So even the sun hasn't come out at this stage in the race. It's still gloomy, still cloudy. No sun peeking through. And we've still got Grant Jones. He's now within like a corner of the top 2. He's been closing in over these last couple of laps. He's still, I don't know what kind of lap times he's doing, but comparable to the top 2. He's now within about 3.7 seconds, so that gap is coming down, but very, very slowly but sure. He's got 18 minutes to maybe have a whiff of getting into first or second. It's now barely noticeable, but the track got a hell of a dousing in the night hours, so it's not letting up. They're still squirming around. I imagine the GT3s probably have a bit more grip than the P2s do, but it's still looking treacherous out there. That is the Tanner, Selby, and Philip Pitcher have to pit. They're in the pit lane. No. It looked a little bit deceptive. It looked like Pichler and Selby were relative in pace. They were in the pit lane at the same time, but separated again now by 20 seconds. Oh no, they are. Yep. Guerrero's coming in the pits as well, so they're all similar, either running out of rubber or running out of virtual energy, one or two. No one's deciding to hang it out on worn tyres, perhaps. You would be a foolish man to go out on slicks. I think Larry is a lap down on Bjorn, so there won't be a change of position. Bjorn's going to stay in 5th. Clean in and out for him. Yeah. So they are definitely fueled to the end. So there's no question about that. So it is just on track. Hagman did pull out a 4. Nice, yeah. Yeah, I wonder if that was possibly cold tyres, or I don't think they would have changed. If they did change tyres, there is a little bit of a warm-up phase, and maybe Hugh was pushing a little. He's still struggling to get heat in that tyre, just coming out of that tight right-hander. So it looks like he may be struggling for tyre heat. They don't warm up very fast, as you might expect in wet weather. So there's a tyre warm-up phase that they have to kind of just deal with and not push too much. So did Hugh Smith just push too far? If he didn't change tyres and the others did, he would still have some, you know, he would have less of a warm-up phase than the people out on new tyres, because they would go out stone cold if they were new. But he didn't drop too far back from Lars, but it does look like that front is wagging around a bit. So I think he's possibly just struggling to keep up those tyre temps. So he's got a few corners to try and scrub those tyres in to at least warm them up a little. Well, we've got 25 degrees air temperature. No, that's track temperature. That is very, very cold. Not as cold as it has been through the night, but that is still very, very cold. Yeah, it's fully dynamic. So it depends on who's running and how many there are. So you can't blame us. No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be generally a British summer here in France. It always spices things up when it is a little bit dreary here at Le Mans. The survival that these guys had to do through the night. Some of them survived, some of them didn't. Some of them failed just before the rain came in, and they will be kicking themselves, and they will be dropping a few championship points. But survival was the name of the game, and it has been through the latter half of this race. And consistency has been key, as you said earlier. As these guys are not only going for this series championship, it is the World Series, which is going to run for the entire year, which is going to be, I think, a total of 4 championships in total for the entire year. So accumulative points throughout this entire year. So you've got to be consistent. You can't win one series and then be down on the next. That's how Pichler won the first World Series in 2025. Consistency from series to series, and there was a good mix of types of racing as well. We had endurance racing, Indy cars. I believe there was some historic racing in there as well. So we had this first round is P2s and GT3s. As you say, we may be changing the classes, maybe to a single class for the next round of the World Series. So it looks like it's going to be about 1.7 laps, nearly 2 laps. So it looks like he's passing a McLaren, was it a Ferrari GT3 car into the first turns. It's this time of the race that I don't really want to mention the leaders. I don't want to give anyone the commentator's curse. So I don't want to say that Salvi could get a good result here. But this will be an improvement from the last round. So I am seeing that maybe the track is drying in places, because the spray does seem to be cutting in and out in certain places. Are we getting a little bit of a dry line? The drivers going to have to be, perhaps in the final 2 laps, going to have to cool their tyres. Yeah, I'm seeing particularly along the long straight down in Selby, the spray is kicking up and going away. So I think the track is drying in sections, but not quite dry enough to go to full speed. I don't think we're going to get any fast laps at the end of this race. Nowhere near qualifying time. Maybe that's why they were pushing at the first third of this race when it was dry, and even when it headed into darkness before the rain, they were pushing on. And I think that was possibly a few people going for fastest laps because they knew they had to make the most of it. I think the key is that particularly with these types of races, you've got to leave your strategy just a little bit open, so that you can think on your, I was going to say think on your feet, but think on your wheels a little, to be able to adapt when the wet weather does come down, because it wasn't sudden. It was a little bit of a gradual appearance of the rain, but it's just where you were on the circuit, depending on how close you were to pit lane. There were some drivers that got caught right at the start and as the deluge happened, but and they were a little bit unlucky. They had to tiptoe around the latter half of the lap, but it seemed to work out for a fair few. But it's only 4.5 seconds between the GT3s, and there's 17 seconds of the P2 leader, as we see someone go off just before the P2 leader. Yeah, so he's gone down 2 laps to the leader now. Oh! So now that the P2 leader has gone across the line, everyone that crosses after that P2 leader will finish the race. So the P2 leader's got to come across the line. He's just coming up the Mulsanne straight now. The clock is now on 0, so everyone after. So if you're short on fuel, you possibly want to let the leader through, so you don't have to do another lap. I've done that in the past. I've been anxiously looking in my mirrors where the leader was. And he's just missed the pit lane as well. He's got to do a whole lap. So Lewis Middleton did go round at the first chicane. Just looking at the difference in lap time, there is Jules de Silva is 48 seconds behind him, but I don't know if he's going to be able to catch. But Lewis Middleton has got to go really slow through some of these tighter chicanes, otherwise he's just going to swap ends. So he's got a very slow lap to be able to hold into his 10th place. Yeah, just come through the Porsche turns, which are normally so treacherous in the wet. You don't want to. That barrier there on the right comes up very fast when you're not expecting it. It looks like he's just coasting through these final turns. He's got the benefit of 14 seconds or so. He's just coasting to the line, I think. So lap before the line. That is the Tasker. Whee! As he goes round. So notice that Lars Hagman is only just coming onto the Mulsanne straight, so he's got an entire lap to go. And I'm watching that gap come down. It's 2.5 seconds. That's a lot to close in a lap, so Lars has just got to keep it pointing in the same direction. But the lap time has been disappearing. Looking at the virtual energy, Lars Hagman is low. He's only got 7%. Is that enough to complete a lap of Le Mans? I think he might only just get there, but the Grant Jones is got more than enough. So I wonder whether he's lifting and coasting, thinking that he might not make it. He might be spluttering over the line. Now, I did say at the start of this that we normally have a grandstand finish. It's like I've written a script. Yeah, he's going to need all the tow he can get. And I'm gonna look at his traces coming into the next turn to see if he's possibly lifting and coasting. Gilles is cutting it a little close with the leader. So he lifted off quite early coming into the Indianapolis corner. He's now down to 4%. Lifted off again quite early coming into Arnage. He may make it. It's now 1.4 seconds. Down to 3%. He is lifting significantly through these final turns. Now he just needs to coast through this chicane, and I think he's got it. Yeah, Pereira was already a lap down, so he finished his race a little bit earlier. So I was holding my breath through that last part. I don't know about you. Yeah, three finishes in the P2 class. I expected maybe that it wouldn't be that as bad, but the rain put a kibosh, as I like to say, on that. That is correct. We are taking the round that we missed because of server trouble, and we're putting it on the end, so we're not missing anything. Zolder.